Welcome to Simply Cooking with Mark McRoy. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very good friend of mine today, Liz Nettles, and she is going to stay here and help us cook some very good recipes. We've got cakes and pies. Come back and we'll get started. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back. Liz, what are we doing today?
Today we're going to start with a lemon cake. Now, this is a very simple cake that anyone can make. This was my grandmother's recipe, and if you can work a mixer, you can make this cake.
You laugh because I have so many people say, well, you make it look so easy. It's like, it is easy. You just got to get in there and try it.
It is. This is one of my simplest recipes, and everybody always loves it.
Looking forward to it.
Let's
get
started. It is a crowd pleaser.
All right.
So to begin with, you can use a stand mixer or you can use a hand mixer, either one, whichever you have in your house or whichever you're more comfortable with. So to begin, you are going to use 1 package of yellow cake mix.
Okay.
So we dump that in.
Brand doesn't matter?
I prefer Duncan Hines.
That's what we're looking for. But
it makes a fluffier cake in my opinion.
Sounds great.
Whatever you're comfortable with. So after your cake mix, 3 eggs. Any kind of eggs works. If you prefer brown eggs, you may use brown eggs.
Look at that. She's doing it with one hand.
If you prefer store eggs, that's fine too.
Yeah, show me how to do that off the air.
A lot of years of practice.
Okay. I like that.
So you have 3 eggs.
Okay.
And this is all based on the recipe instructions that are on the box.
Right.
So when we're going to start deviating is we are going to add 1 package of lemon jello.
Okay.
Pudding mix.
So
lemon jello pudding mix.
Wow.
And that just goes right on in there as well. 1/2 cup of oil.
Do you use peanut, canola?
I use vegetable.
Okay.
You can experiment and see which works best for you. And then 1 cup of water.
All right.
So the nice thing about this is, once again, you dump it all in there.
You can do this at home.
You can. Okay, I lock this in place. Now you.
Oh, you're safety conscious too.
I am.
That's cool.
I've had my beater pop up every once in a while. So I lock the bowl in. I mix this on low for about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Just to kind of incorporate all the ingredients. And it looks like it's getting pretty good. So then I do medium speed for 2 minutes.
All right.
So then you just let that roll.
I've never used that mixer. I always use the whisk. This is cool. I've learned how to break eggs with one hand, and I'm using other appliances.
So this will be a very thick batter when it's done.
All right.
Okay. That is looking good.
Really good.
Unlock it. Okay, and you can see how thick that is.
That is.
As opposed to regular cake mix. It's normally not quite that thick.
All right, hold on a second.
You gotta taste it. Make sure it's okay.
Pretty darn good.
Okay. All right, get some of that excess off, and then there you go.
Appreciate it.
You can have it that. So you may use a tube pan or a bundt pan. I prefer the bundt pan. It looks a little fancier.
It does.
So when you grease your pan, you always have to grease a pan if you're baking. If you use the spray,
yes,
and you put flour in the bottom, you will end up with a lot of gunk on the top. It's the excess flour, or if you use powdered sugar, it would be the excess powdered sugar.
Right.
So I prefer using the shortening. So I put a blob of shortening on a paper towel, and then I smoosh it into all
Another
of the...
technical cooking term.
It is.
Smush it.
Because if you don't get it greased well enough, your cake's going to stick, and then you're going to have to figure out a way to cover the big old divot in the top.
Big old.
Technical term.
And again, this is why these people are paying good money for this.
So this takes me a minute.
Take your time. It's that way so they can see a little better.
Sometimes I do let the kids help with this because their little fingers get in those little crevices better.
Child labor.
Okay.
Always exploit it.
That looks
Looks great.
Pretty well greased. You can still see the shortening, and that's fine.
Looks downright artistic.
That way, you know you've at least gotten all of the spots. Okay. So then I just pour a little bit in there. A little bit of flour. I use flour. I'm a flour person unless it's sugar cookies, and then I use powdered sugar.
Okay.
So then I beat it to get a nice
go ahead and make a
even
mess.
coating.
I just spent 2 hours cleaning the kitchen. Go ahead.
Just kidding. You can do it over the sink.
But then Jason's angles aren't as good.
Exactly. Looking pretty good. I'm going to
That
dump
does.
the excess in the sink. So then make sure that I've So once again, you can see how thick this batter is. It is.
Can I help? You want me to hold it, or
Oh my God, thank
just
you,
too many
though.
hands though? Okay.
Well, I've been doing
It
it
looks
on my
delicious.
own for so long.
It's funny, we've had my daughter Carlson on the show twice, and she has done just a great job. And it's amazing, you know, after she was always like, I know Daddy, and now she's coming out here, she's actually contributing and knows stuff.
Why don't you take that? So then I prefer to smooth the top of my cakes just to
For
make
liquid
sure.
bowls. I like this part of watching as opposed to cooking.
So I smooth the top to
Mhm.
make sure that it cooks evenly. So as you can see,
We could have made 2 cupcakes out of this.
I know. So, and then I'll put this in a 350-degree oven for about 35, 40 minutes.
Sounds good.
Depends on your oven.
Okay.
You have to know your oven.
We'll put it on 30 and then check it. Okay. Timer, 3-5. Start.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Folks, we're going to clean up, come back, and we're going to get started on what? Pie?
Buttermilk pie.
Golly, this is fun. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back, folks. All right, we're back. We're going to make pie crust.
Yes.
Liz, fill us in.
Okay, so I know you can buy pie crust at the store, but it's not good.
It's not the way Mom would do it.
It is not the way Mom would do it. Now, it has taken me, I told my mother the other night, it has taken me half my life to figure out how to make pie crust.
Think of how great they're going to be for the next half.
So, but I finally figured it out.
Okay.
So the things that you need to keep in mind are your recipe.
Okay.
You have to find a recipe that works for you.
Gotcha.
I prefer a mix of shortening and butter. Some people are very team butter. Some people are very team shortening.
Okay.
I prefer a mix of it. I think it makes a tastier crust.
Sounds good.
So you have to find the right recipe.
Right.
Then you have to find the right method that works for you.
Okay.
I figured out I have hot hands.
Okay.
And I cannot mix with a pastry cutter and get the results that I want. So I have to use a food processor.
Okay.
And I'm okay with that.
Now, what she's talking about, her hot hands, tell us about what the effect that has on your butter and everything.
So when you are making pie crust,
Right.
you put in all of this fat.
Okay.
If the fat melts before you get it in the oven,
Right.
the crust is not as flaky.
Okay.
So it's very important to have very cold fat
Okay.
and to not work the dough too much.
Okay. Got it.
And if you work it too much, then it gets chewy. And nobody likes a chewy pie
No,
crust.
flaky pie crust.
Yeah. So what we are going to do is put our dry ingredients in first.
Gotcha.
So we have flour, we have sugar, and we have salt.
Okay. Now, you were talking about your flour.
I am. If you are making pastry,
Gotcha.
I prefer the winter flour. So this is a nice, soft baking flour.
Okay.
So, and I've used gold medal, I've used Pillsbury,
Yeah.
and this I've gotten the best results from.
You heard the joke about the flour?
No.
Old couple goes to a wedding counselor, and the wedding counselor says, or the marriage counselor looks at the husband and says, you know, it's important that a husband knows a wife's favorite kind of flour. And he's like, no problem, man. He reaches over and pats his wife on the shoulder. It's Pillsbury, ain't it, baby? I got a bunch of bad jokes.
That's bad.
All right.
Okay, so we are going to measure out our flour, and you'll
Okay.
notice that I'm using dry measuring cups
Now, what is the difference between a dry measuring cup and a...
and a wet measuring cup. Okay,
Okay.
so the difference is volume.
Okay.
Now, I was never really good with science and math, but I do know this. The volume is different in the dry measuring cups than in the wet ones. Notice,
Newsflash.
notice that the dry measuring cups, when you fill them up, you can level
Right.
it off. In the wet ones, you can't. And
Okay.
then you'd have to bang on it to get everything to settle, and then that messes up how much flour is
Also
actually
messes
in
up
there.
Jason's acoustics. But anyway, go ahead. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to take a cup and a half.
We could get a knife and you could do that.
Well, you could,
Okay.
but I have found that with the softer flour, it's
Yep.
okay to have just a little bit extra at the top. So we have a cup and a half.
And she's using the cup and a half measure, so it will be exactly right because she's very precise,
I
and she
do.
also wanted to get everything in my kitchen dirty.
That's not true.
Okay.
I haven't gotten everything dirty yet.
Day ain't
So-
over yet.
Your cup and a half of flour.
Okay.
Now see, I wiped my hands off over this thing.
Thank you.
Then you add your tablespoon of sugar and a half teaspoon of salt.
Now, the salt you're using is just
Regular iodized salt.
Okay.
The
And because-
thicker salt does not bake well.
gotcha.
It's perfect for meat.
Yep.
It's perfect for vegetables and grilling. But if you're baking, you need to use iodized salt.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I'm going to pulse this 3 to 4 times just to incorporate everything.
Gotcha. I got to
Okay.
get one of those. I just like the way it sounds.
It's fun. Okay.
I'll tell Chuck that's on my next expense list.
So now I'm going to grab our fat from
Okay.
the freezer.
All right.
I've already cubed it. So that everything is nice and even.
And look how
So-
she did this. That's the lard and that's the butter.
And
But-
feel free to use actual lard. It's
Okay.
just hard for me to find sometimes. So this is 6 tablespoons of butter cubed and 3 tablespoons of shortening. It is very, very important that you keep this cold. So I'm going to try to touch it.
She did this about 5 or 6 minutes ago, and it's been in the freezer ever since.
Yes, I place it in the freezer. There we go. Okay. Just put that over there. Okay, now everything's in.
And this hot hands, you touch that one, is it not?
I know,
Okay.
it's not going to be as good. So
Okay.
we're going to pulse this again 8 to 10 times.
Okay.
And I'll show you what the consistency should look like. So I start looking at it after about the 8th
Yep.
and see if it needs a little bit more. Now, humidity
Yep.
and heat affect how long it's going to take to incorporate all the ingredients. Ooh, 1, 2, 3.
You can hear it getting more consistent.
Okay, so that was 8. And if you take a look,
Okay.
you'll
You want a
see that
spoon?
there are some granules. And if you put it together,
Yep.
it forms. So I think it might need just a touch more. And like Mark said, you can hear that
Yeah,
the
it's gotten the-
fat has incorporated. Okay, so
And
that
she's
looks
using the
good.
blade. She's not using the.
Yes, I'm not using the dough hook because it doesn't cut
It doesn't
it
break
as well.
it. Okay.
So I have a nice handy dandy chute at the top of my food processor. So now we're going to add enough ice water to make it come together. And I say enough, which I hate when people are not precise, but like I said, it depends on the humidity, it depends on the heat, and it depends on the temperature of your water.
Okay.
So I had ice in this water. It has since melted. That's fine. It's
Okay.
still cold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pulse this while I add my water in the top.
Okay.
And you just drizzle that in. Okay, so you can see that it's
Yeah, it's
clumping up a little bit more.
another technical term for baking.
It is.
I know you're a teacher, but this is an educational show. People actually do this for, other than entertainment value. They're trying to learn something.
Okay, so you see how it's kind of standing up on the
It is.
sides? We're getting closer. So
And
that
it's
was
breaking apart as whole pieces inside, too.
this. That's 2 tablespoons of water. This is 3.
That
Okay,
is
you see
nice.
it's getting closer.
Yep.
So a good rule is about 4 or 5 tablespoons. So we'll see if 4 does it today.
Yep. And that's what you're looking for?
This is what you're looking for. It is all gathered on one side.
How
So
cool
we'll
is
take
that?
it off and
Okay.
look. And it holds its shape.
Yep.
So that's what we're looking for.
Sounds good.
So now, next we'll need to roll it out.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Next, we will need to chill this
Okay.
for about 15 minutes in the freezer.
Okay. We'll get this in the freezer. We'll be right back, folks. Our cake's ready. The timer just went off. The house smells great.
It does.
All right, let's get these out of here. Can I help?
Just make sure I don't trip over anything. Hot cake.
hot cake and speaker wires. There we go. All right.
Here we go. So that is looking perfect.
Jason, you want to get a shot of that before I put my hand in there and sniff it? Oh man, that smells good.
So we need to let the cake sit in the pan for
Okay.
about 10 minutes
Not a problem.
to let everything set.
Right.
Let the sides loosen up a little bit more, then we'll flip it out and let it cool on the wire rack.
Okay, sounds good.
Once it's cooled all the way through,
Yep,
we'll put some glaze on it
sounds good.
with some lemon and some lemon zest.
Take a short break. We'll come back and glaze this puppy. Folks, we're back. Liz has got some of the neatest toys you've ever seen. She has this, what is this, just cheesecloth or cotton?
It's a rolling cloth because it has these wonderful markings on it that show you centimeters, inches, and diameter for pies.
I don't know if you can see it, but of course she's got flour all over it. But it's got, yeah, you roll it out and it's got 10, 12, 10, 8 inches things on there. But it's just really neat. I don't have to get one of these.
Yeah. So we have retrieved our dough. We wrapped it up in plastic.
Right?
Put it in the freezer.
Yep.
You can put it in the freezer or the refrigerator depending on how much time you have until it hardens back up. Once again, it's to make sure that your fat is nice and cold
Right?
so that we don't have hot fat.
Folks, the crust, the dough is moist. I was shocked at how moist it is. It's not dry. So,
Because we add a little bit more flour.
okay.
So having it be a little bit more moist is better.
Right.
Because then you won't overflour it. And if you overflour it, that's when it gets tough.
Okay. What's with the sock?
The sock helps to keep the dough from sticking to my rolling pin.
Okay.
Because it's a nice wooden rolling pin. It's
Right.
fabulous, but sometimes things stick to it.
Okay.
So, but this I can saturate with flour
Okay.
and keep it from sticking. So
So cool.
roll that around. And some people really like to have those rings that you can put on there to measure how
thick it is? Yeah. Amateurs.
I'm not that fancy.
There you go.
So we're going to try
Rookies.
to get this rolled out to a nice even thickness with as few cracks on the edges as possible. This is when I make a mess because I end up with flour
It's my house.
coming
Yeah.
all over.
I appreciate
everything.
your concern, but give me something to do tonight.
So I try to do this evenly because we don't want anything really thick.
Right.
You don't want any really thick edges. So that looks about right. So I'll take my pie pan
Okay.
just to make sure. Looks
Yep.
like we have plenty of overlap.
So it doesn't have to be perfectly round, anything like that. Okay.
Okay, now this is the tricky part. This is when we have to get it into the pie pan.
Okay.
I've seen many different techniques for this.
All right.
This is my favorite, where I just roll it up a little bit.
Yep.
And this is how you'll know if your dough is thick enough
Right.
and wet enough.
Okay.
If it's too dry,
It'll break apart.
it'll crack right down the middle,
And that's a bad thing.
and that's a bad thing.
Okay.
Because then you have to re-roll it out, and it makes the dough tough.
Okay.
Okay. Say a little prayer. Here we go.
Now lay me down to sleep. Liz, that is great.
So there we go. Nice.
Everybody, golf clap.
Like I said, it took me half my life to figure this out.
If any of y'all watched the Masters last week, you'll know how to do that.
So I'm pressing it in just a little bit, make sure that that weight.
Look at how good she is. She even kept her jewelry on while she was working with it.
Okay.
All right.
Now,
Yes,
we
yes.
kind of break off the excess,
Okay.
which also makes some really yummy little treats.
I was
If
thinking
you,
cookies.
Well, you put these on a cookie sheet and you put some cinnamon and sugar on them,
Yes. You have my attention.
and you bake them until they're nice and golden brown. And you have a nice little treat, especially if you're not able to have the pie right away.
Jason, we got time for that? Okay.
So I'm just getting the excess off. I'm going to tuck it up underneath so that it looks nice
Pretty.
and pretty.
We're going to keep this at 350 with the other one?
Yes.
Okay.
So we just tuck and roll.
Liz, that looks great.
pleased with how that turned out.
It's not your first rodeo, right?
It's not.
Okay.
And they don't always look pretty. I prefer to use the pinch method.
Right.
To make my crust. You can do this many different ways. You can use a fork,
right.
Just crimp it around the edges.
Yeah.
But I think this makes it look a little prettier. So I'm just pinching the dough.
Did you learn this from your mother or your grandmother?
My mother and my grandmother.
Okay. That is so cool.
Okay, there we go. Now, you can buy fancy things.
Yes.
To put in the bottom.
Right.
Because we are going to...
You have to poke holes in it.
Yeah, we do. But we're going to bake this because the cake that we are making is a custard cake.
Okay.
So it's very liquidy and we don't want it to not bake the crust. So in order for us to have a nice flaky crust, we have to pre-bake this.
Okay.
So we're going to poke some holes in the bottom. This is called docking, and it ensures that the air bubbles can get out so that you don't have
like a
bubbly crust.
Yeah.
Which tastes just fine if it does happen.
It's just not as pretty.
It's just not as pretty, so I make sure that I get plenty of holes around the sides.
It also takes out the volume because then you have to compact it when you put the cake batter or the pie mixture in, and it doesn't.
So,
it's not as consistent.
As you can see, I poked some holes in there.
She's a hole poking individual.
And so, what I was getting at was that you can put parchment in the bottom.
Right.
Parchment paper. You can fill it with fancy pie weights or dried beans.
Oh goodness.
Or
yes,
we can just put it in there, which is what I prefer to do because honestly I don't have time or space to keep all those extra things in my kitchen. So
dry beans.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
But then you can't bake with them. They have to be like your pie beans. So then we are going to bake this for about 20 minutes. So put it in there for about 10 minutes. Check on it.
Okay.
Make sure nothing's getting too brown.
Got it.
And then an additional 8 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
You want it to have a nice golden color, kind of like the color of your countertop.
Sounds good.
Because you're going to bake it again.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that it's not too brown.
Kind of par baking.
Yes.
Terminology.
So we'll put this in.
All right.
That's a 350-degree oven again.
Yep.
And we'll check on it in about 10 minutes.
So we're going to come back and glaze our cake because it's cooled off now, and then we can check on this.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. You guys have no idea how good it smells in here. Liz took the leftover crust, we put it on a cookie sheet, sprinkled it with
cinnamon and
sugar, and stuck it in there with our cake, our pie crust. It is outstanding. All right, now we're going to make our lemon glaze for our cake.
We are. Okay, so this is our cooled cake. And we are going to zest 1 lemon.
Okay.
And if you have a zester, that's perfect. If you don't, you can get a wood rasp at Ace.
Really?
Does the same thing.
Didn't know that. I like my zester.
It's really a handy tool to have in the kitchen. So I will zest the entire lemon.
Okay.
And we'll be doing this later with our pie as well.
Oh, that smells good. It takes a lot to overpower that cooked cinnamon.
Well, and really, most of the flavor from the lemon is in the zest, which is why we use it in the glaze and in our pie.
And it helps offset the taste of the tequila.
No tequila in the pie.
We can save some for later.
It does like to stick.
It smells wonderful.
Okay, so this is about a teaspoon and a half of zest.
Per lemon.
And then I roll my lemon to get all the juice.
Massage it, if you will.
Squeeze. You need about a teaspoon, a tablespoon, depending on the consistency of the glaze that you want.
Right.
If you want a thicker glaze, you use less. It's harder to turn after you take the skin off. Okay. So that looks like That should be enough
It
for
does?
what we're doing.
Okay.
About a cup of powdered sugar. Now,
Okay.
once again, you can eyeball this.
Right.
If you're not comfortable eyeballing it, use a measuring cup, the dry measuring cup.
And I found out something else. Measuring cups, that's what those little lines are on the side. Tells you how much is going in there.
Okay. So we'll pour some of this in, check our consistency, see if we need some more liquid or some more powdered sugar.
Looking good.
Looks like we might need a touch
More sugar?
more liquid.
I had a 50-50 chance. Blew it.
Well, you want it smooth enough that it falls over the cake easily,
Right?
but not so liquidy that it just slides right off.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Now, somebody has to sample that.
you do.
Thank you. Yes.
So we'll take our cooled cake and we will drizzle over the top.
That is just, whoo, baby hush. I'll get my big head out of the way. But the lemon glaze is just wonderful.
So, and because this is so easy,
Yep.
you can make more if this is not enough for you.
Okay.
But that looks like it's
It looks perfect to me.
good for our purposes for today.
Okay.
So you can let that set up or you can go ahead and cut into it.
We're going to let it set and we're going to get our pie shell out and get going on our next project.
Which is the custard for our pie.
Hot dog. So we're going to work on the custard and then we're going to put this aside if we can stand it. We might have to slice this early. What do you think, Jason? Liz, thanks. I can't wait for this. We'll be right back with the custard. We're back. Liz is going to do a buttermilk pie,
Buttermilk pie.
with our wonderful crust. Before she gets started, I want to show you something. This is the pie crust. Remnants. All we did was put it on the cookie sheet, stick it in the oven with the pie crust, sprinkle it with sugar and cinnamon. Oh my God, this is good stuff. All right, now she's already pre-measured everything. So, Liz, talk us through this. What are we going to do?
Okay, so a buttermilk pie is a custard pie.
Okay.
Which means that you're going to use eggs. You're
Yep.
going to use butter. We are using buttermilk, obviously.
Yum.
Since it's a buttermilk pie.
Does make sense.
The funny story about this was that it was my grandfather's favorite pie.
Okay.
And I had no idea what he meant by buttermilk pie, because if you tell people, even today, that you're making a buttermilk pie, okay, blank face. So then you explain that it's a sweet custard pie with lemon flavor.
Yep.
Oh, everybody's interested after that. So
Yep.
every time I make this, I think about my grandfather and the fact that it was his favorite pie.
That's a wonderful thing. I do a lot of baking, and I always think of my mother and my grandmother.
Yeah.
Of course, I still have my mother, but anyway, it brings out a lot of nice memories.
It does.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we are going to mix our sugar. We have a cup and a half of sugar. And then we have 3 tablespoons of flour to kind of thicken up our custard.
All-purpose, self-rising, doesn't matter?
All-purpose.
Okay.
No, never self-rising.
Okay.
And
I like the way she
then
said that.
I'm going to mix this up just to blend the flour and the sugar together.
Right. And that does make a difference when the consistency has to be good, so you don't have flour on one side and sugar on the other, and one's sweeter and one's clumpy.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure you
Okay.
get all the clumps out. Okay. Everything looks good. So now we break in our room temperature eggs.
Right.
We've had these sitting out while we've been baking.
Y'all don't realize after this show, we're going through a dozen eggs. She's going to show me how to do that.
Okay. So now we whisk in these eggs.
Okay.
Or mix them in. And it's very important that you spend a little bit of time making sure that this is very much incorporated.
Okay.
Because the sugar pokes holes in the structure of the egg,
Okay.
which gives it a nice lightness. So we're going to turn this up a little bit.
Gotcha.
It should be a nice light yellow color
Gotcha.
when it's all incorporated very well. Okay. Now, if you want to take a look, you see how light that is?
It does. Looks almost like a Dijon mustard.
Exactly. So you want that very light color
Okay.
before you incorporate anything else.
Gotcha.
So now you know that the sugar has been beaten into those eggs sufficiently well.
Right.
Okay, so now we add the rest of our ingredients. So we have 1 cup of buttermilk. We have a 1/2 cup of butter, which is 1 stick of butter, not margarine. Thank you very much.
Don't even have it in the house. Ever.
That's not good.
Nell Simmons wouldn't have it.
We have a tablespoon of lemon zest.
Which is about a lemon.
It's 1 lemon, yes.
Okay.
Okay. We have 1 teaspoon of vanilla.
I actually got to contribute on this. I gave her some real bourbon vanilla on this one.
Okay. Then we need 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, which is about 1.5 lemons.
Okay. And again, you're using fresh lemon juice.
Fresh lemon juice. Now, I'm not going to say that you can't use the other stuff. In a pinch.
But why would you?
Well, if you're in a pinch,
Lemons
say
are
you
2
only
for
bought,
$1.
but if you didn't buy enough at the store, you never know. And some lemons are juicier than others.
It's very true.
So, there we go. And we still have a little extra, which is fine, so we could put some of that in our whipped cream.
Or margaritas. Okay.
Okay, so we'll mix this up. Start it kind of low because it's a very loose liquid. It's not thick like our cake batter.
Right. And we don't want it to go everywhere.
No. Okay, that's looking good. And you can whisk this by hand if you want.
Yeah. This looks perfect.
And so there we have.
Okay.
Let's get that out of the way. Okay, so we take our liquid, and this is the hard part. You ready?
I'm ready. Do we need a drum roll?
No, this is it.
Liz, that looks wonderful.
Okay, so this cake tin is a little smaller,
Right.
which is fine. You'll just have a little liquid left over.
Okay.
You want to leave a little bit of space at the top because it's going to rise a little bit.
And we don't want to mess
and
up
you
your
don't
oven.
want it to flow all over the place. So we're going to get that in the oven.
Sounds
and then
good.
We'll make some whipped cream.
Y'all, we're having way too much fun. Liz is going to show us how to make whipped cream. Let's get started.
Because if you've gone through all the effort of making your own pie crust,
and
you've got to make your own whipped cream.
I'll be honest with you. People talk about, and I've actually had people in the church say, "Ma, did you bring Cool Whip?" It's like, I wouldn't pay money for Cool Whip, darling. We're going to have whipped cream.
No, so we start with heavy cream.
Yep.
Once again, this depends on how much you want to make.
It doesn't go bad, so you can make all you want.
Exactly, and it's wonderful in your morning coffee. Put a little dollop on top if you have leftover.
Yeah.
So we start with our heavy cream, and we pour that right into our bowl. It's best if you can chill your bowl beforehand, but if you can't, that's fine too. So we start the mixer, and we want it to get a little thick before we start adding the sugar.
Because it takes, if you do, it doesn't mix as well.
It does not. So I am going to add a little bit of this lemon juice so that we have some lemon whipped cream.
Okay. And I might add something here. Lemon juice, even if it's the bottled lemon juice, the real lemon juice is good. Don't use lemon extract.
No.
It tastes horrible. The alcohol gets in there with the coolness, and it I don't know if it turns the cream, but it is rancid. Don't ever use lemon extract.
Okay, so we're getting a little thick. We're starting to see a few little bubbles in the top. I'm going to turn it up a little bit, and then we're going to put
precise measurements are essential.
You can eyeball, well, because it depends on your personal taste as to how much sugar you like in your whipped cream. Some people don't like it. Some people don't like it really sweet. Some people like it super sweet. So it looks like the sugar has been incorporated pretty well. So we're going to turn this up.
High gear.
This is about medium-high. We're getting some medium-sized bubbles to go along with our medium-high speed. Once again, it's thickening.
Yep.
And once it thickens just a little bit more, we can go up a little higher. Otherwise, you end up with whipped cream all over the kitchen.
Which is fun if you got a cat, but other than that, it's just...
Okay. So we need to make sure that this is whipped until stiff peaks form, which means when you pull the beater out, it doesn't move.
Right. But if you let it keep going too fast, you'll have
Butter.
lemon sweet butter,
Yes.
which isn't a bad thing.
It's just not what we're looking for today.
No.
So if you can see, it's starting to make patterns. So we'll bring it back down so you can see that we're almost there.
Wonderful.
Okay, it's almost ready. Is it sweet enough?
Liz, I'm going to let you judge it. I think it's
Okay.
great.
Nope, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, let's whip it just a second more. And I really did mean just a second.
Liz,
Okay.
I'm going to brag on you a second. We did a bourbon beef tasting in downtown
We did. At the
Arts
Artisan
Center. She made a bourbon whipped cream to go on her apple
Cheddar
turnover.
apple pie.
Good Lord, that stuff was good.
So I'm a big believer in making your own whipped cream.
Okay,
So as you can see,
perfect.
nice,
Nice and thick.
thick, and ready to go on this pie.
Okay.
So we will have whipped cream, and we have some Breland strawberries to top our pie.
On our custard pie.
Yeah.
I tell you what, you can come back anytime. All right. One more break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Liz, I can't tell you, this has been great having you over to do this. Plus, the other thing is I get to sample. Usually the guest just gets to sample.
Yeah.
This time I get to do it. So I'm really looking forward to this. We have our lemon cake and with our lemon glaze and our
Buttermilk pie.
buttermilk pie with homemade whipped cream with lemon and topped off with Breland strawberries.
Yes.
What do you suggest digging into first?
You know, I think maybe since we've been waiting longer for the cake, we should probably try the cake first.
I'll do the cake. I'm going to go right into the top and get some of that wonderful glaze. That was worth the wait.
The nice thing about this cake is that it's just so moist.
And so light.
Mm-hmm.
Jason was talking about the glaze. This is what's great is seeing him drool while we're eating this. That glaze is fantastic. And again, it is so moist. I can't, all right,
I was gonna say pie.
pie time. Let's see if I can do this. That is all that and a bag of chips.
I'm glad you like it.
That buttermilk pie,
I was gonna say, if you can see the custard,
the custard is fantastic.
might have too much.
No,
whipped cream.
the crust is good. The whipped cream sets it off, and the strawberries on top of it. Oh my word! Liz, that is fantastic.
I think we have a winner.
I think so too. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. Liz, thanks for coming by and cooking with us. I can't wait for you to come back again.
Yeah.
Please come back.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
I'm going to eat some more cake.